be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. We are truly blessed by God and enriched by the many people of St. John's who volunteer their time and talents in small and large ways for the benefits of our parish and for the advancement of the gospel. St. Paul tells us there are a variety of gifts and varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in everyone as a sign of the Holy Spirit for the common good. There is no insignificant work that is done among us. All efforts, from maintaining our property to cleaning the church, to leadership, to visiting the sick, to praying for one another and for our ministry, all are important efforts by which we are mutually blessed and by which our ministry prospers. At the same time, St. Paul teaches us to give thanks always to God through Christ, in whom he has given us every blessing, including the blessing of one another. It is therefore appropriate on this day that we should recognize the work that is done by so many faithful and dedicated people, giving thanks to one another and to Almighty God for making the Spirit manifest among us in such a variety of ways. And certainly that is true. A variety of ways is how the Spirit manifests itself in this community, in many communities actually. When I ask you to put your hand up if you volunteer, there was hardly a hand that wasn't up. Everybody volunteers. My guess is, even if you think you don't, you do in some way. You know, I think about the teachers who teach our children every day. What we don't hear about is the countless hours they spend outside of the school day working and not getting paid for it. So that's volunteering. So a lot of us do volunteer work that we don't consider volunteer work. A lot of what I do, I don't consider volunteer work because it's something that feeds me. So how many of you have ever thought, well, I don't know about that Val. She's always encouraging us to volunteer, to do something. What does she do? So I thought I would share a little bit of my volunteer experience. Some of it goes back a number of years. I've been on the board of directors for Bethlehem Housing and Support Services. I was a board member, I was the vice president, and then the president of the board. Actually, I was the president of the board of directors when we built Kenmore Court here in Niagara Falls. I am still on the development committee at Bethlehem Housing and Support Services. And the development committee, we are the ones who come up with the ideas for fundraising. Fundraising and fundraising. Another thing that I do is I volunteer as an on-call chaplain at the hospital. And I'm always surprised when I get called to the hospital when I happen to see one of our own in hospital that I didn't know about. I have been doing this volunteer work for probably 20-some years. And it is certainly something that's near and dear to my heart. As well as volunteering in palliative care, another area that I'm blessed to volunteer in. And like I said, I don't consider it volunteering. I consider it a ministry. A ministry that I am called to. A ministry where I have the privilege of walking with people. Of walking with people at some of the most destitute and desolate times of their lives. The people that I serve and their families welcome me in, and that is a privilege. Another thing I do is I volunteer with youth. Now, I think I'm getting a little long in the tooth for that. However, through the years, it certainly has given me energy because they have a way of challenging you, believe me, to think outside the box. But it's good. It's good for all of us to think outside the box. A few things of what I do as a volunteer. But like I said, I don't consider it volunteering. I consider it a ministry. And that's what all of you are. All of you are ministers. I always remember a classmate at one point, we asked her to pray, and she said, "I can't pray, I'm not a minister." I said, "I didn't know you had to be a minister to pray. But actually you are a minister." No, I'm not. I'm not ordained. No, you're not ordained, but you already have a ministry. What she didn't think about was her work in the sacristy. She was the sacristan. So that was her ministry. And all of you have your own ministry. It may be the ministry of hospitality. It may be the ministry of caring for our children. It may be the ministry of just being nice to others. You all have a ministry. Do you think you could name your ministry? I can look around and see. Bernice, you have the ministry of presence. I never know where I'm going to see Bernice. I was with my mom yesterday, and when I came home, I always drive by because it's on my way, and there was Bernice out there watering the plants. You're always around, my dear. We have a number of people who really carry out the ministry of caring. I have a wonderful doctor, but also all of you. All of you. A group of people gave up their Saturday to bring awareness to the refugee family that we're sponsoring. They've worked tirelessly at raising money to bring this family to Canada and to support them for a year. Tirelessly. They have worked so hard. And you know what the good thing is? They do it with joy and excitement and caring. I couldn't be at the barbecue last Saturday. Believe me, it was hard to stay away. But I heard about it. I heard all about it. And you'll see what I wrote in the announcements. Talk about a ministry of welcoming the community in. Sometimes I think people are a little taken aback because they don't really expect to get anything for nothing. There's got to be a catch here. What does he say? I get to eat? I don't have to.
Doesn't cost any money.
It doesn't cost any money.
You know, they're charging at a separate table.
How many times have we been welcomed, entertained, fed, and sent on our way with happy waves of farewell, and not been expected to pay? That's the ministry of welcome. Because we welcome people not for what we get out of it, but for what we can give them. For what we can give them. And that is the gift. That is the gift of that community barbecue. And Pat tells me that he believes he saw more faces from the community, the wider community. And that's what's important, that we're welcoming the wider community into our smaller community of St. John's. I could go on to talk about the outreach that we do in this parish. Project Share, the soup truck, the backpacks, the Advent giving tree, the water project, Out of the Cold, St. George's breakfast program, Eleanor's socks for Christmas. And each one of those things you all support. You all support. We heard this morning that money is the root of all evil. And yes, the love of money. The love of money. However, money has a place. One, we need it to survive. Well, we think we do. I think we could survive on a lot less money. But we need it to help other people. On my way in this morning, I was listening to CBC, and lo and behold, they were talking about refugees. And what happens to the refugees that have come to Canada after their sponsorship year is over? Because we agree to sponsor these refugees for a full year after they arrive in Canada. So that means housing, support, and hopefully helping them get a job, teaching them the whole system of how to get around in the community that they're going to live in, everything that is foreign to them. What I heard the commentators say is that the refugees that are sponsored by private sponsors tend to get a little bit more support because we can have more concentration specifically on them, as opposed to other organizations who are trying to support a myriad of refugee families. We know that the family that we're sponsoring is a family of 5, a mom and a dad and 3 children. So they're going to have a fair income to support 5 people. Not an easy thing in today's economy. The good news for us, I believe, is that the dad of the family we're sponsoring is a bricklayer. So he has a skill, a marketable skill, which is important. However, there'll still be the need to learn to speak English in order to take instruction. So the volunteers, we have people who have volunteered to do all these things. Someone said to me, I may not be able to do a lot of the physical work, but I know I can teach them how to speak English. I'll remind you who that was. So today we're celebrating all of you. It's no easy feat corralling all those people on a trip, is it, Diane? It's absolutely, 52 is a lot of people. And everybody had a great time. Yeah. I heard you had a great time. You see, you can't do anything without me hearing about it. I heard that everybody had a wonderful time. The show was good. The dinner was good. The dinner company was good. And they enjoyed it. Diane didn't get paid for that. She did it out of the goodness of her heart. And it feels good. It feels good to be able to give. To give. And there's Sterling sitting there. You didn't think you could get away with me not talking about you, did you, Sterling? Sterling, countless of people have came through these doors. And countless of people have said, you know that guy Sterling? He is the first person who welcomed me. He welcomed me to St. John's. All are welcome. And when we say that, we don't just say it, we say it. We say it from our hearts. I know Sterling does. And I know you do. We actually had visitors this morning at 8 o'clock from Kansas. And they were happy to be here and worship with us. And thanked us several times before they made their way out the door for being so welcoming to them. So, as you travel through this next week, I want you to think about how is it that you spread the gospel? If you remember a saying by St. Francis, spread the gospel, and if necessary, use words. There's many ways that we spread the gospel. There's many ways that we share the good news. One way is by welcoming, loving, and caring, and forgiving. What gifts we have. And like St. Paul says, there's all kinds of gifts from all different people. You all have your own unique gifts of ministry. And I encourage you to think about what those gifts are. I see them. I can name them. Hope, love, caring, compassion, welcoming, loving, all around me, and we are blessed here to have so many caring people in our midst. And for that I say thanks be to God. I felt the need at 8 o'clock to say a few words about why I have been missing in action. somebody said, I think Val was on vacation. No, Val wasn't on vacation. I wish, yeah. Vacation would have been much pleasanter. I had to be in the hospital for a test, and I was grounded for 3 days. I couldn't drive. Don't think that wasn't a challenge. But the good news is I'm here. I'm okay and ready to get at it again. Every once in a while, we have to admit that we're not infallible. And my body decided to give me a little nudge. So I need to listen to it, and I will, and I have been, kind of. It's hard when you love what you do, I have to tell you, because I absolutely love what I do. I love all of you. I feel blessed to be here amongst you. My bishop called me in last week to have a chat, and he was singing your praises, because it's not 2 years yet, and we've made a lot of changes here at St. John's. A lot of things have changed for the positive, for the good. So if your ears were burning, that was Bishop Michael talking about it. So I give thanks every day in my prayers for all